For 8 years, the UN has been scouring Iraq, looking for its chemical, biological and nuclear weapons. Under the terms of the Gulf War ceasefire, Iraq had to hand over its weapons of mass destruction to a UN team called UNSCOM. But on the ground, the UN team have met with nothing but obstruction.
No, not to videotape everything.
No,
we'll take the interview. I can take the interview.
It makes my blood boil each time I hear the phrase that the Iraqis will resume cooperation with UNSCOM. Iraq never cooperated. The best it ever did was say, here we are, come and find us out.
We are inspectors. We want out.
I know that, whichever the case is. Anyway,
there are large areas, particularly in the biological weapons area, that are unaccounted for. We have no idea, frankly, how much of these agents, including deadly agents such as anthrax and botulinum, were actually created by Iraq, and far less do we know what actually happened to them.
But not only was Iraq hiding these weapons, the UN inspectors' greatest fear was that they were being smuggled out of the country. Jack Ohms is a senior advisor to UNSCOM, working on the Iraqi weapons inspection since 1991. Before that, he was the Dutch government's expert on chemical weapons.
The Iraqis have, and we know it now, from the very beginning, a very clever game of concealment, in which they actually set up a whole organization, around 1,000 people, who actually only job was to conceal the weapons and the documentation from us.
Jack Ohms' suspicions were aroused in the very first months of the weapons inspections. At Saddam International Airport, he discovered Sudanese aircraft. Many UN inspectors saw planes like these being loaded with cargoes they were prevented from inspecting and then flying out to the Sudan.
Not only myself, but reports by several inspectors passing along the large Saddam International Airport of Baghdad in the years 1991 till 1992, 1993, there were suspiciously Sudanese aircraft parked on the airfield. There was a possibility of expatriating both people and equipment, and certainly also documentation out of the country.
On the airport's tarmac, Jack Ohms saw suspicious weapon-sized containers. But the airport was one of Saddam Hussein's so-called presidential sites, one of the few places the UN inspectors were not allowed to investigate.